So again, there's, you can see a lot of, as the price went up, there was more color. So, you know, that's, you know, one good thing. If you're willing to pay the cost, you get more color. There's a, I believe that's a scene from Blood Feast there. Good picture. And there's an ad for Ginger Snaps too on the back. But those are the Rue Morgue issues. I also have one issue, just one, of Slaughterhouse. I don't know how many of you have heard of Slaughterhouse magazine, but I'm not even sure if they're putting out any issues now. This was issue number 4. I'm trying to figure out what year this was, and I'm not sure. Not really sure. And we can figure out by what was in it. There's stuff on Batman. They evidently did an interview with Scott Spiegel. There's information on Chuck Vincent, Steve Patino, Fred Olen Ray, Survival Research Labs, an interview with Archie Goodwin and Dan Chichester, I think. And there's also an Elm Street 5 contest on the back cover, and there's stuff on Clive Barker's Nightbreed, which probably makes this a pretty old issue if they were talking about Nightmare on Elm Street 5. But, yeah, you could see that this is mostly black and white pages. I'm not seeing really any color in here. Oh, and speaking of Jim Van Bever and Deadbeat at Dawn, here's an article they had, or a little review that they had on Deadbeat at Dawn. So that might be of some interest to those of you that listened to the part 1 of the Jim Van Bever interview at Dead Pit. But there is some color in this magazine, but there's not a lot. There's some stuff on Fred Olen Ray here. There's a little comic. Zombie Cats. Okay, so that's my Slaughterhouse issue. Another issue I have is Cemetery Dance magazine. This is the only issue of this I have. This is a fall 1992 issue, so it's rather old. But the reason I got it was there was information on Stephen King in here. I think there might have been a story of his in here. But as you can see, just by looking at this, this is not really a horror film magazine as much as it is like a horror story magazine. There's stuff that Charles L. Grant did, Ed Gorman, John Lansdale, Matthew Costello, you know, a lot of the horror writers that you've heard of, for those of you that like to read a lot. This, like I said, it's mostly a literature type or short story type of magazine. But that's Cemetery Dance. The next one is, I believe this is also the only issue of Cinefantastique that I have. This is an August 1994 issue, folks. This one's kind of old too. The reason I got this one was because it had information on The Stand. It's about the time that Stephen King's The Stand came out on TV. And there's also stuff on Tim Burton's Ed Wood, Wolf, that had Jack Nicholson on it. Stuff on Babylon 5, because I think Cinefantastique, if I remember correctly, I'm going to try to open this up so I can show you. I believe Cinefantastique was like a horror, sci-fi, fantasy type of magazine. And again, there are some color pictures. There's an article on Wolf. Here's The Stand stuff. So they had quite a bit more color in their magazine. There are some black and white pictures. But overall, a good magazine. I'm not as much into the sci-fi aspect of it as I am like the horror stuff when they do horror stuff, which probably explains the reason why I only have one issue. There's stuff on birds too. There's an article on Remembering Hitchcock. There's an article on Ghost in the Machine, so that again tells you how old this particular magazine is. But I do try to keep some of my older issues in the plastic. Okay. And this is kind of timely. I hope it's not, out of place, but I did want to cover this one. As most of you know by now, most horror fans know, Ches Ballion did pass away recently. This is the only issue of Deep Red that I have, and it's a special edition of Deep Red. It's the 15th anniversary special, and it has, as you can tell, it has some information on the film Cannibal Holocaust. You can see the famous scene from Cannibal Holocaust there. There's also stuff on Return of the Italian Cannibal Zombies. There's Island of Death. Stuff on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's a gore scoreboard. As you can see, it says a shitload of reviews. Anybody that's ever read Chaz Ballion's reviews knows they're just hilarious. There's also 50 Red Letter Days in Splat history. The Beast movie moves east. New Asian horrors. And this is a Dripping Devil issue. And it was $6.95. And as you can see there's the famous Peter Bart breastfeeding sequence from Burial Ground. Everybody remembers that. But this was a very, very good issue of this particular magazine. I'm not sure that too many of these came out. There's a lot of black and white to this issue, not a lot of color. There's stuff on Return of the Living Dead for, it says the lost and found story of the missing 20 minutes. So a lot of you might find that interesting. There's of course the beautiful Linnea Quigley as Trash. A lot of you fans remember her from that. But this is more like a newsprint instead of glossy pages, but